watching ABC 7 Bangor.
Lake North to the Rockbound Coast and streaming live in HD worldwide at foxbangor.com. More people choose Good Morning Maine.
The life of Maine game warden pilot Joshua Tibbetts was celebrated yesterday. We'll have more from that service coming up.
Plus, we'll hear from the Sullivan Fire Department about how volunteer numbers are dropping in many Maine communities.
And Bangor High School students were able to learn from a NASA engineer yesterday. We'll bring you that as well.
Good morning and welcome to Good Morning Maine. I'm Janessa Bishop.
And I'm Craig Colson. Thank you for joining us and happy Friday, everyone.
Yes, happy Friday.
Very excited about that. The long Memorial Day weekend is upon us.
That will be nice.
Yeah, hopefully everybody has some fun plans over the next couple of days. The weather's not looking terrible either. Today, in fact, will be a beautiful sunny day with temperatures in the mid-60s.
Nice and sunny.
It'll be comfortable. And then we'll see a little more clouds as we head into the weekend, but no big wet storms on the way.
Well, that's good news.
Yeah.
We'll turn things over to meteorologist Devin Biggs.
And thank you very much, Craig and Janessa. Happy Friday. Your first weather forecast brought to you by Clifton General Store. Start your morning right at Clifton General Store. Fresh coffee and hot breakfast. Family owned and operated. All right, here we go. We have a frost advisory and a freeze warning up for parts of the state that will be dropping throughout the morning period as we do get some sunshine going. It's going to be a very nice day across our neck of the woods as we do push forward. Look at this. We're very clear. The clouds tracking down toward the south as high pressure continues to take control. Lots of sunshine on the way for us today. Still some gusty winds with a cold front nearby and high pressure just off towards the north, and with the two close together, the pressure gradient will be on the tight side today. So here's Futurecast right here. Again, a lot of sunshine today. A few clouds passing through overnight, but otherwise we'll be mostly clear. We'll watch for more clouds on the way late into the day on Saturday. But otherwise, some gusty winds reaching up to about 20 to 25 miles per hour. The winds will be backing off later on tonight, and then we're looking really good as we head towards your Saturday. But otherwise, moving forward, your hourly forecast. Lots of sunshine today with temperatures rising into the 60s. Your full 5-day forecast is coming up. Craig and Janessa.
Looks like a great day. Thank you very much, Devin. We'll see you later on. Well, first this morning, Maine State Police have arrested a man for an alleged homicide in Clinton. 66-year-old James Simonson was arrested Thursday afternoon. He's charged with murder for a shooting on Main Street in Clinton back in 2025. Happened in June of that year. 68-year-old William Bill Parent of Clinton died from injuries he received during that shooting. This is a photo of the alleged victim right there on your screen. Parent was then reported missing in July of 2025 and was later the subject of an intense search in the area. Simonson is also charged with possession of a firearm by a prohibited person. He's being held at the Kennebec County Jail.
Scores of law enforcement, family, friends, and community members gathered to remember the life of Joshua Tibbetts, a Maine game warden pilot whose life was tragically cut short last week in a plane crash. Those who knew him say he was one of a kind, equally devoted to service and family. Our Doug Banks was at the Cross Insurance Center as attendees paid respects and shared memories.
The life of Maine game warden pilot Joshua Tibbetts was celebrated on Thursday.
I will hold you in my broken heart always.
Law enforcement from across Maine escorted the 50-year-old into the Cross Insurance Center. Loved ones surrounding his flag-draped casket.
I'll never stop being proud to be his daughter. I wish we had more time, more dinners, more talks, more movies, more ordinary days together. Thank you for everything you gave us. Thank you for the memories, the lessons, the adventures, and the love. I'll carry the memories with me forever.
The father of 2 daughters and a stepdaughter was restocking fish in the area of Schoolhouse Pond in Avon on Tuesday, May 12th. Authorities say at around 11 a.m., his Cessna dispatched an automatic distress call. There was no prior communication before the crash, and he was the only one on board. Franklin County authorities identified Tibbetts. The FAA and the NTSB are currently investigating the incident. Meanwhile, his fellow wardens pledged to keep watch over his family.
You have my phone number. You know where my office is, and I along with every game warden here, will be there if you need us.
Those who spoke on Thursday told tales of misadventures in ordinary moments of the Corinna-raised man, all of which encapsulated how people described him as one of a kind and devoted to work, life, and above all, his family.
As I try to assign some meaning to this awful tragedy, I try to remind myself of a few important truths, and I want to leave them with you today. Tell the people you love that you love them every single chance you get. Don't sweat the small stuff. Relationships are what truly matter in this world. And finally, listen to people. Just listen.
In Bangor, Doug Banks, ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
Well, following the program inside the Cross Insurance Center for Warden Joshua Tibbetts, the ceremony was moved outside for more honors, including the last call. Here's a look at the moments that followed the celebration of life.
All units, 2203, Game Warden Pilot Joshua Tibbetts. I show you 10-7 for the final time. End of watch, Tuesday, May 12, 2026. Thank you for your service. We have the watch from here. Dispatch clear.
Well, the people of Maine also took time to say goodbye to a history-making lawmaker. Gerald Talbot was Maine's first black legislator. He passed away earlier this month at the age of 94. Allison LaPierre reports on the celebration of life that drew people from all over to Merrill Auditorium in Portland.
Family, friends, and state leaders gathered here today in remembrance of Gerald E. Talbot, a Maine politician whose work in advocating for civil rights and equality touched the lives of many.
God bless you, Papa. Rest in peace.
Gerald E. Talbot was a political activist that grew up in Maine. Devoted to public service and equality, Talbot was a man rooted in history and served as Maine's first black state legislator.
He knew there had to be another voice, a voice for people who had no voice in the Maine legislature.
Elected officials, clergy, family, and friends shared heartfelt stories about Talbot's life and accomplishments. That includes his time in the Army, his participation in the March on Washington alongside Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and becoming the founding president of the Portland NAACP chapter.
Jerry Talbot opened the door to a joyous daybreak. His daughters have walked through that door. Craig Hickman has walked through that door. Jill Dewson has walked through that door. Rick Lawrence on the Maine Supreme Court has walked through that door. Future generations of all races and faiths walked through that door.
While in office, Talbot sponsored Maine's first bill protecting gay and lesbian people from discrimination and removed offensive names targeting the black community from locations across the state.
He knew empowerment of people who have been cast out of society, who are not considered to be part of society. Political empowerment of those people is at the very essence of America.
The celebration of life concluded with remarks from Talbot's 4 daughters, including State Senator Rachel Talbot Ross.
Our father's life was also guided by faith, as you've heard, not simply faith in words, but faith in action. He believed in seeing the dignity and worth in every person.
And that was Allison LaPierre reporting. Well, first responders from Waldo County and beyond gathered last night to say their goodbyes to fallen Morrill firefighter 27-year-old Andrew Cross. He was killed in the line of duty at Robbins Lumber Mill last Friday. Hundreds of firefighters, EMS personnel, game wardens, and police and members of the public all came together to pay their respects to Cross at the Riposte Funeral Home in Belfast. Across the state, first responders showed up to honor Cross's ultimate sacrifice, stressing that the community of Maine's emergency personnel stands united in times of tragedy.
We kiss our significant others goodbye in the morning as we're off to work, and with full expectation that we're coming home that night. Whether you're a volunteer or you're a full-timer, it doesn't matter. We all leave to go to do the same job, and we're all hoping to come back.
During his memorial procession on Saturday, we spoke with members of the Morrill Fire Department. They described Cross as a diligent, kind, hard-working young man.
Andrew was a firefighter's firefighter, if that makes any sense. He was the first guy grabbing a nozzle, the last guy to sit down and take a break.
He definitely was a hard-working individual and did a lot to serve his community.
A private funeral for Cross's family and loved ones will be held today in Morrill.
Well, investigators with the State Fire Marshal's Office and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives continued their work at the scene of Robbins Lumber Mill fire and explosion. Their work Thursday focused on continuing interviews, scene excavation, and evidence recovery. They also continued their examination of the mill's fire suppression systems as they work to determine the origin and cause of the fire. The Department of Public Safety says investigators have now sifted through hundreds of cubic yards of sawdust and debris by hand and with heavy equipment. Crews are also carefully excavating material within the silo areas to preserve and document potential evidence. A crane slated for use today has arrived, and it will be used for planned lifting operations involving the silo structure. Prep work for that was also completed.
Well, approximately 80% of communities around Maine rely on volunteer fire departments, giving the state one of the highest dependency rates on volunteer first responders in the entire country. But as our Alex Schley tells us, fire chiefs say it's becoming more difficult to find people willing to answer the call.
When I joined in 2009, we had 43 of us on the department, 16 of us could go inside. Today, I have 16 on the department and only 4 of us can go inside.
Just before 6 o'clock Thursday morning, first responders were dispatched to a house fire in Sullivan.
Luckily, I was at home. I'm a minute from the station on the other end of town. I was on scene within 10 minutes.
But officials say that kind of response time is not always possible.
Most of us have full-time jobs. So we have to come from wherever we're at to the station to get equipment to go back to the scene. So you're anywhere from 10 to 20, maybe 30 minutes before you even get to the scene.
The number of community members willing to volunteer is shrinking. And with the limited manpower and longer response times, many volunteer departments now depend heavily on mutual aid agreements with surrounding communities.
We have what we call a Scudic district. So when there's a structure fire or a woods fire, we basically roll 7 towns.
Thursday, firefighters say they were able to quickly get the fire under control.
I was one of the first ones there, and when we got there, we had heavy fire in the basement and on the first floor, and we worked at it, short manpower, but we got it done.
Officials say there are a number of factors contributing to the decline of volunteer firefighters.
You know, donating all your time after working a long day or going out with your family, it's tough to get people to try to fit it all into one.
Despite the challenges, fire officials say there is still a place for anyone willing to serve their community.
There's a job for everybody on the fire department. If you think you can help or you want to help, talk to your local fire department. We need bodies.
In Sullivan, Alex Schley for ABC7 and Fox 22 News.
Well, as we've been hearing from them over the last week, they say if you've ever been thinking about it, considering it, this is the time to reach out to your local fire department.
Absolutely. Our communities rely on them.
And you don't have to be the person that actually goes into the fire either.
Right.
Like they said, they have a lot of other jobs there. You can direct traffic, all kinds of things.
Yeah, that makes sense. The time now is 6:14. Coming up next on Good Morning Maine, the family of a Millbridge clammer is keeping his legacy alive. We'll have those details ahead.
But first, another look at that forecast. A beautiful day ahead today, mostly sunny skies with highs near 68 degrees. It will be partly clear tonight with lows dropping down to around 40. Tomorrow for Saturday, partly cloudy, highs near 72. We'll be right back.
From playing JFK Jr. in Love Story to now in American Horror Story, where will Paul Anthony Kelly's story take him next week?
Good morning, America.
That's correct, yeah.
Wake up with Paul Anthony Kelly on
Good morning, America.
Foggy's Pub, your place for fun, food, and friends in Palmyra, Maine.
Ladies, a Maine adventure.
Let's go up to camp. We've got Adirondack chairs, Coleman sleeping bags, tents, bug spray, sunscreen. We got what you need. And Adam's going fishing.
When you combine a fast-paced word game,
4 of them make $1.
Hoarders, hosted by Leah Remini.
What is swing? Did you just say what is? Yes. You just realized you're not on Jeopardy. Okay.
You've got a recipe for fun.
I got a few dances, Leah. I like to do this guy here. At weddings, I kill it.
You do not kill nothing with that.
People puzzling.
Weekdays at 10 on ABC 7.
Welcome back, everyone. A federal court has dismissed a lawsuit brought by the United States Department of Justice that sought to compel Maine Secretary of State to hand over voter data. Shenna Bellows first declined the DOJ request in August of 2025, and the DOJ filed the suit against Maine in September of 2025. In a statement, Secretary of State Shenna Bellows said, quote, "Today's ruling affirms that states, not the federal government, are in charge of our elections. From the moment the Trump administration sought every American's voter data, I said no." She went on to say, quote, "Let me be clear, Trump and the DOJ may continue to try to interfere with free and fair elections run by states, and we will not let them."
In other news this morning, the family of fisherman Alton Wallace is working to ensure his legacy continues. Last spring, the 51-year-old Millbridge man was reported missing after not returning from clamming. He was found deceased several weeks later. Alton's sisters, Sheila and Juanita, said that their brother had a passion for teaching the next generation how to fish and hunt. In an effort to continue his work, the Wallace family has decided to give a lifetime hunting and fishing license to a young outdoorsman.
Truly had a passion for getting the youth involved in the outdoors, getting them hunting and fishing. And many children he introduced that to for the first time because maybe their family weren't from a line of hunters or fishermen or whatnot. So that was our idea behind this.
Anyone under the age of 15 is invited to apply. The application asks that the license would mean to them and their family, what their favorite thing to do outdoors is, and if you knew Alton, what one of your favorite memories was of him. The Wallace family plans to get together and read all of the applications. They will announce a winner on what would have been Alton's 53rd birthday on June 25th. We will have all of that information and how to apply on our website at foxbangor.com.
Well, if you plan to head to Old Orchard Beach this summer, you'll be paying for parking. Seasonal paid parking in the town begins today. Drivers can pay through the Passport Parking app or at kiosks located throughout the area. Parking passes can also be purchased online or in person at the Old Orchard Beach Town Clerk's office. The seasonal parking will remain in effect through September 7th.
Well, students at Bangor High School got a visit yesterday from a NASA engineer as part of their Challenger Learning Center of Maine's 40th anniversary initiative. Dr. Kenneth Harris is a senior project engineer with the Aerospace Corporation, but his STEM career began during his teenage years as an intern for NASA. He is also a Challenger board member. His visit is part of the Challenger Center's 40th anniversary, focused on honoring the legacy of the Challenger crew members and celebrating 40 years of promoting STEM education for students. Harris shared exciting NASA projects with the students, including work related to the James Webb Space Telescope.
Kind of opens a light to other students that there's a lot of opportunities out there and that anything is really possible.
I know at some point my time within the industry will come to an end. And so how we intentionally
fostering this sense of creativity within the next generation that's going to continue to travel and carry them into the stars, no pun intended.
Well, the event also included a student-moderated Q&A featuring Bangor High School STEM students. The Challenger Learning Center of Maine has lots of programs happening this summer. To learn more, you can visit astronaut.org.
What a great opportunity.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. The time now is 6:20. After the break, more Senate Republicans expressing anger over President Trump's settlement fund. We'll have the latest ahead.
Plus, we'll meet gubernatorial candidate Jonathan Bush on our Who's the Candidate segment. Those stories and more straight ahead on Good Morning Maine.
Hank's Husqvarna is your trusted full-line Husqvarna dealer, offering you everything you need for your outdoor projects. From high-performance lawn tractors and zero-turn mowers to chainsaws, trimmers, battery-powered and powerful snowblowers, we have just what you need. Every piece of equipment is fully set up, serviced, and ready for use by our certified Husqvarna technician. And all sales are backed by our in-house Husqvarna warranty. For parts, service, or new equipment sales, make your way to Hank's Husqvarna in Carmel or Newport.
Are you experiencing foot pain? Comfort Shoes & More has a team of experts trained in pet orthotics to help you find relief. They offer tailored fittings, shoe modifications, customized orthotics, and much more for the ordinary or for the hard-to-fit foot, with fashionable and functional footwear from today's top brands: Hoka, Brooks, Keen, Teva, Taos, Ufus, and Birkenstocks. From running to walking, casual or dress, they have it all. Take the drive to Newport for a sit and fit to find your perfect fit. You and your feet will be glad you did.
For 20 years, Graham Plattner has shared his hateful and bigoted beliefs online. Police officers who keep us safe, Plattner says they're all bastards. Black people, Plattner insults them and says they don't tip. And if you dare disagree with Graham Plattner, he calls you retarded and a fag. 20 years of nonstop bigotry and hate from Graham Plattner. Read it yourself at bigotedplattner.com. Pine Tree Results PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Well, with Maine's primary election just around the corner, we want to give our viewers a deeper look into the candidates that they'll potentially be voting for.
Today we hear from Republican gubernatorial candidate Jonathan Bush.
Who is Jonathan Bush?
Jonathan Bush is, I am a father of 7, a veteran, an entrepreneur, for the last 30 years, a CEO. I'm running because I think Maine needs an outsider who is a CEO. We need a bit of a turnaround in Augusta after 8 years of triple barrel single party rule. And since I was a platoon leader in the Army, I've been leading groups of people against a mission. Whether that's shredding the distractions, and Augusta has accumulated many distractions, recruiting great people to come in and help, which Augusta needs, getting rid of the weak links, and relentlessly motivating the team, just staying on mission, staying attracted to the core goal and not getting distracted. So I believe Maine dearly needs a tax cut. We should not be the 3rd highest tax state in the country. We're the 5th poorest. We should be somewhere in the middle of the pack, at least for starters. And that means being a little humbler about what our state government does in order to accomplish that tax cut. That will then give us a chance to grow the economy, and we will get into a series of rinse, slather, repeat improvements in the tax and spend cycle. New Hampshire, our neighbors, got much lower taxes, and 10% of the state's economy is government, where here it's 19% of the state's economy is government. Part of that is what they spend, but part of that is their economy is growing. Maine's economic growth last year was 0. That is not an okay place for an American economy to be. And once we get that growth cycle going, we can start investing in our education, making it an easier place to start and grow small businesses, become a place that we can relate to and are proud of as we get, stronger and grow.
And we'll be hearing from the other candidates as we head toward those midterm elections.
They're coming right up.
Yeah.
Now let's get a full look at our forecast with meteorologist Devin Biggs.
Alrighty, Craig and Janessa, thank you very much. Your full weather forecast brought to you by Clifton General Store. Start your morning right at Clifton General Store. Fresh coffee and hot breakfast, family owned and operated. Alrighty, here we go. We have advisories posted that will drop throughout the morning period. Frost advisories and even some freeze warnings as, of course, temperatures got pretty cool out there. Hopefully you protected your flowers that were outside. Meanwhile, wave height's pretty quiet out there. No advisories along the coast, so the wave heights have been behaving themselves. Meanwhile, 3-foot wave heights farther out towards sea. Meanwhile, on land, the last of the clouds have been moving away as high pressure takes control. So another nice one out there today under a mostly sunny sky, although low pressure and high pressure pretty close together. So another breezy one today with gusty winds up to around 25 miles per hour. Areas farther down toward the south, we'll be seeing some precipitation today. But again, for us, we're going to stay dry out there under a mostly sunny sky. Some passing clouds overnight, but that won't be a big deal. Overall, mostly clear. But as we head towards tomorrow, sunshine to start. We'll watch for a partly cloudy sky by the afternoon period with more clouds on the way as we head towards Saturday night and the parts of Sunday. Your UV index forecast for today will be at an 8. That's very high. A burn time of simply 15 minutes. So hat, sunglasses, sunscreen, and shade will all be necessary to avoid a bad sunburn today. So we're definitely entering that time of the year. Of course, gusty winds common today, reaching up to about 20 to even 25 miles per hour. The winds will be backing off tonight and staying pretty quiet as we head towards the daytime period tomorrow. So for today, mostly sunny and breezy, highs in the upper 60s, northwest wind at about 25 miles per hour. And then by tonight, mostly clear, lower 40s for the overnight low, and the wind overall looking nice and calm. And then for tomorrow, partly cloudy, lower 70s for the high, and the wind overall again looking nice and calm. Let's check out your extended forecast as we look ahead towards your Sunday. Mostly cloudy with highs in the lower 60s. Memorial Day still looking rainy with highs in the lower 60s. And then partly cloudy, a few showers Tuesday with highs in the mid 70s.
Webb's RV Center has a 4-acre lot with over 75 previously owned campers all on sale, plus another 4 acres of new RVs and motorhomes. Webb's RV will take anything in trade. You can buy a camper anywhere, but be sure to buy your next camper at your local neighbor. A website can't service your RV, but Webb's RV will. And they have the biggest service department in the state of Maine to help you enjoy your RV or motorhome.
So come on down, neighbor. The coffee pot's on and the pencil is sharp.
This Nissan lineup goes where you take it. Vehicles built with oomph, torque, traction, and yeah, full control. That's the power of a Nissan. Now's the time to drive. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality. Well-qualified buyers get 0% APR on select model trims or get up to $4,750 total savings on Frontier.
My fantasy team is cooked. Guess I'm out for the season.
Hey, waiting the whole year is crazy. With Prize Picks, you can pick more or less on your favorite players whenever you want.
He's right. I locked in my picks before the game last night and cashed in.
Sweet. Did you get the new kicks?
Nah, they ain't have my side. New users download the Prize Picks app and get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup.
Carpets looking tired, stained, or just plain dirty? It's time to call the pros. At C&R Carpet Cleaning, we use deep steam technology to remove dirt, odors, pet hair, and allergens fast. Fresh, clean carpets, healthier home. That's the C&R promise. Visit our Facebook page for a free estimate or call us today, 631-7380. Step into clean with C&R Carpet Cleaning.
You're watching ABC 7 Bangor.
Now to to Washington and what's being called a Republican revolt. Senators appearing to turn their backs on President Trump when it comes to his nearly $2 billion IRS settlement fund. Here's ABC's Lionel Moyes.
This morning, more Senate Republicans are expressing anger over President Trump's $1.8 billion so-called anti-weaponization fund. The fund stems from his settlement with the IRS for leaking his tax returns. It would use taxpayer money to compensate people who say they were unfairly investigated by the Biden administration. Those people could include rioters who stormed the Capitol on January 6th and assaulted police officers.
These people don't deserve restitution. Many of them deserve to be in prison. This is just stupid on stilts.
Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche met with Republicans skeptical about the fund. Sources say there was yelling, with senators worried about November's elections. Sources say one stood up telling Blanche, "You created this expletive sandwich. You got to figure it out." Senators reportedly feel Blanche failed to guarantee the fund would exclude people prosecuted for crimes on January 6th.
Did he make that guarantee to you all in the meeting?
I did raise that issue, and that seemed to be what he was saying, but, we haven't seen language.
You want more clarity?
I do.
Trump allies are already lining up for payouts from the fund.
I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of the world's most comfortable pillow.
MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell, who made false claims about the 2020 election, says he believes he and his employees are owed money for losses his company suffered.
I was glad to see it might be a faster way to get my employees that all were hurt. Some of them lost everything, and I think it's a real good thing for everybody.
But back on Capitol Hill, concerns about the fund, as well as President Trump's controversial ballroom project, have now prompted Republicans to delay approving one of the president's top priorities, his immigration enforcement bill. Lionel Moyes, ABC News, New York.
Well, now to Minnesota and what's being called an historic fraud bust involving massive amounts of taxpayer money. Here's Morgan Norwood from ABC.
After hours on the run, the FBI capturing Muhammad Omar. Authorities say he's the man who jumped from a fourth-floor balcony trying to flee from agents. He's one of 15 people accused of defrauding Minnesota's Medicaid programs of more than $90 million. The Justice Department says the defendants billed the state for services never provided and used the taxpayer money to buy real estate, luxury cars, and jewelry.
Our cases today involve 7 different state-managed Medicaid programs that have been systematically pilfered by fraudsters who treated Minnesota-run programs as their personal piggy bank.
The programs targeted include housing assistance for seniors and people with disabilities, childcare, and autism services.
Today's arrests represent the largest autism fraud bust in American history.
Investigators say the defendants paid kickbacks to parents, falsely diagnosed children with autism, and submitted fake Medicaid claims totaling more than $400 million. The charges coming the same day Amy Bach, the former head of a nonprofit, was sentenced to more than 40 years in prison. She was convicted in a separate scheme that stole nearly $250 million from a program meant to feed needy children during the pandemic. Morgan Norwood, ABC News, New York.
Meanwhile, the risk of Ebola affecting fans at the World Cup is low, according to Dr. Oliver Johnson, a global health academic at King's College in London. But heightened screening and travel restrictions could still complicate logistics. The expanded 48-team tournament, co-hosted by the United States, Canada, and Mexico, runs from June 11th to July 19th. An Ebola outbreak in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo has recorded around 600 suspected cases and more than 130 deaths, prompting the World Health Organization to declare a public health emergency of international concern. U.S. authorities have also barred entry to non-U.S. passport holders who have been in the Congo, Uganda, or South Sudan in the past 21 days, forcing Congo-based staff to depart early. Fans traveling to the tournament should follow basic precautions such as good hand hygiene and avoiding close contact if unwell. He advised supporters to respect others and avoid stigma, helping preserve the inclusive spirit of the World Cup. Well, coming up on the second half of the newscast, a fire department in Texas has adopted a new furry friend.
Oh, he's cute too. We'll meet the little doggy coming up on Good Morning Maine.
We need to shake up Augusta. But who will do it? An insider or an outsider? The insider is Bobby Charles, a D.C. lobbyist for 25 years. The outsider? Jonathan Bush, a conservative businessman and disruptor. Bush is the only candidate who's created hundreds of jobs in Maine while reducing waste and fraud. And Bush will slash your property and income taxes.
I'm Jonathan Bush. Let's shake up Augusta.
C-Spot. C-Spot Run. Run, Spot, run. Oh no, Spot. Oh no, many spots. Time to call Penobscot Cleaning. Our professional cleaners come to you. Our truck-mounted systems are quick and cause little disruption to your home or office. We also clean upholstered furniture and leather. Oriental or fine area rugs are specially cleaned right in our shop. We'll give you the cleanest carpets guaranteed. Visit our website at penobscotcleaning.com. Oh look at that, spotless.
It's Costa's Restaurant and Bar.
It's Costa's Restaurant and Bar.
Costa's.
Costa's.
No matter how you say it, you're going to love it. We offer a huge selection of homemade Greek, American, and Italian dishes that you can enjoy in our front dining room. Or take a seat at the bar. With our Dine for $29 special, get an appetizer, 2 meals, and a dessert, all for just $29.99. And don't forget our event space has plenty of room to accommodate your party.
It's Costa's.
Costa's.
A delicious experience that doesn't cost a lot.
Every year, communities recognize outstanding service with the Spirit of America Foundation Tribute. Do you know a local person or group that goes above and beyond for others? Nominate them today by contacting a select person, city, or town councilor. Help honor those who make a difference where you live. For more information, visit spiritofamerica.website.
You're watching ABC 7 Bangor.
Welcome back, everyone. Today is Friday, May 22nd, 2026, and it is also National Road Trip Day.
The long Memorial Day weekend is the perfect time to hit the road for a new adventure. The road trip has been loved by Americans throughout history, from great works of literature inspired by the road to songs that we all know and love. A road trip means something to everyone. This is a day to pack up the car and head out for a bit of a change of scenery.
I love a good road trip.
Yeah, I wonder if people will be, depending on the gas price situation, traveling this weekend I think probably.
Yeah, I think people might be restricted somewhat, but I don't think it's going to keep them at home. I mean, we've been sitting around all winter waiting for warmer weather and things to do.
Out.
Yeah, you got to get out there. It's going to cost a little more, but
but it's a good weekend to do it.
Yeah, get out there and enjoy.
Yes.
All right, time for some history. It was on this date back in 1849. President Abraham Lincoln received a patent for a device that would lift a boat over shoals and obstructions. Called it a floating dry dock. He would become the only U.S. president to achieve this accomplishment. I did not know he was an inventor as well.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Guy could do anything. 1906, some other inventors here. The Wright brothers received a patent for their flying machine. That's what they called it back then.
Plane.
Now it's an airplane. Yeah. 1960, the strongest earthquake ever recorded took place in southern Chile. The magnitude 9.5 quake killed more than 1,600 people and left 2 million people homeless. It also triggered tsunamis that killed hundreds more in Hawaii, Japan, and in the Philippines as well.
2 million people.
Incredible.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
In 1964, President Lyndon B. Johnson outlined the goals of his Great Society. It was an ambitious series of domestic programs aimed at eliminating poverty, reducing social injustice, and expanding welfare. It represented the largest social reform plan in modern U.S. history. In 1967, the children's television program Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood premiered on television.
I was a Mr. Rogers kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, he was great.
Aw.
Yeah, was he still on when you were a little kid?
No, I don't.
No.
I'm not sure,
Yeah,
honestly.
it was good stuff.
Yeah. In 1980, the Namco company installed the first Pac-Man arcade game in Tokyo. It was later released in the US and other places, becoming one of the most popular video games ever. And lastly, in 1992, Johnny Carson hosted his final episode of The Tonight Show after a reign that lasted nearly 30 years.
You know, when they released Pac-Man, it was originally called Puck-Man.
Puck-Man?
Yeah, in Japan, but kids were vandalizing the machines, turning it into a dirty word. So that's when they decided to change it to
Pac-Man.
Pac-Man.
Huh.
So little trivia there for you.
You always know fun facts, Craig.
Full of them. Right, for birthdays today, they include singer Morrissey, who turns 67 today, actor Sean Gunn from Guardians of the Galaxy, he turns 52, and actress Ann Cusack turns 65. Happy birthday to them and to you also. If your birthday is today, she, of course, has a couple of famous siblings as well, John Cusack, and I can't think of his sister's name. She's so funny now. I'll Google it.
We'll Google. Yeah. Let's turn things right back over to meteorologist Devin Biggs.
Thank goodness for Google.
Yes.
And thank you very much, Craig and Janessa. Happy Friday. Your first weather forecast brought to you by Clifton General Store. Start your morning right at Clifton General Store. Fresh coffee and hot breakfast. Family owned and operated. Arnie, here we go. We have a frost advisory and a freeze warning up for parts of the state that will be dropping throughout the morning period as we do get some sunshine going. It's going to be a very nice day across our neck of the woods as we do push forward. Look at this. We're very clear. The clouds tracking down toward the south as high pressure continues to take control. Lots of sunshine on the way for us today. Still some gusty winds with a cold front nearby and high pressure just off towards the north, and with the two close together, the pressure gradient will be on the tight side today. So here's Futurecast right here. Again, a lot of sunshine today. A few clouds passing through overnight, but otherwise we'll be mostly clear. We'll watch for more clouds on the way late into the day on Saturday. But otherwise, some gusty winds reaching up to about 20 to 25 miles per hour. The winds will be backing off later on tonight, and then we're looking really good as we head towards your Saturday. But otherwise, moving forward, your hourly forecast. Lots of sunshine today with temperatures rising into the 60s. Your full 5-day forecast is coming up. Craig and Janessa.
It was Joan Cusack, of course.
Yes, and she is really popular.
She's very funny. She was great in Shameless and so many other things.
So many other things.
Yeah.
Well, still to come here this morning, Jack Webb with sports.
Don't go away.
There are so many fun things to do in Maine. Now you can enjoy more for less. Check out half-off deals from foxbangor.com.
Located on Wilson Street in Brewer, Yoshi Japanese Restaurant, where you'll find only the best sushi, Asian favorites, and specialty crafted cocktails that will satisfy anyone. Try tatami seating for an immersive experience. Yoshi Japanese Restaurant, bringing delicious traditions to you.
There's a limited supply available. It's on sale right now. Save with half-off deals from foxbangor.com.
I'm Barry Higgins from Maple Lane Farm. We have our own beef herd here. We're on about 800 head, and it's raised right here on the farm. And we go direct to the consumer. No middleman, all natural, good old-fashioned Maine beef. Our quality is unbeatable. We have specials on Facebook every week. We guarantee our product 100%, whether it be beef, pork, or chicken. And we have a small selection of lamb also.
Maple Lane Farm, a candy store for a carnivore.
Think you know Robert Charles? Think again. While President Trump was crushing the woke left, DC insider Bob Charles was cashing in, making millions holding lucrative contracts with the woke DEI Never Trump Obama administration. Bob Charles, looking the other way, abandoning the MAGA movement, working for liberal DEI-loving Democrats, failing President Trump. Anything for a buck chuck can't be trusted. Trump traitor Robert Charles, woke, radical, wrong. Just too liberal for Maine.
Welcome back in, folks. Let's start in New York, where the Maine baseball team played UMBC in the America East Tournament on Thursday. The Black Bears started this one hot with the bases loaded. Quinn Murphy crushes this one to center right and comes inches from a grand slam, but they'll take the 3 runs and the early lead. UMBC would tie it in the second inning, but in the 5th, the Black Bears steal the lead back when Troy Carpenter hammers one over the wall. That's a 2-run homer, and Maine takes a 5-3 lead. To the next inning, here's a blast from UMBC's Dylan Melton, fumbled by the outfield, and he makes it all the way around to third base. Then Anthony Mascuelli with a clean hit to left, bounces off the ground, and Melton gets home to make it 5-4. But then in the 9th, UMBC runner on second base. This hit goes high up in the air, but it's caught by the Black Bears, and Maine moves on with a 5-4 victory. Maine will take on number 1 Binghamton University at 1 p.m. on Friday. Now let's stay with Maine baseball, as Hunter St. Denis has been named the America East Rookie of the Year. The America East Conference announced their regular season awards on Tuesday afternoon, and headlining a list of award-winning Black Bears is freshman Hunter St. Denis, who has had quite the impact for Maine this season, registering 57 hits, 37 runs, 10 home runs, and 39 RBIs in his first year as a Black Bear. As the Rookie of the Year, he was subsequently named to the All-Rookie team alongside Troy Carpenter. Other Black Bears awarded included Jason Kruger, Juju Stevens, and Albert De La Rosa, who were all named to the All-Conference team. Let's return home to Maine now for some high school baseball action. The Ellsworth Eagles traveled to Husson University to take on the John Babs Crusaders. Ellsworth holds a 9-1 record coming into today's matchup. Let's start this one in the first. Dawson Curtis with a bouncing hit. He's thrown out, but not before Evan Haskell makes his way to third base. That sets up this hit. It goes deep to center right field, caught for the out, but Haskell makes it home for a 1-0 lead. Aiden Willett would end the Eagles' turn at the plate in the first with this strikeout, but in the second, it's another nice hit, this time from Caleb Jordan. He takes his base, and no score this time, but in the bottom of the inning, now it's Baps' Josh Panburn with a base hit, a missed throw to first base, and here comes Sam Churchard to tie the game at 1 apiece. In the third inning with a 2-0 lead, now the Crusaders' Ian Bourdreau hits this one, sending Colby Haggerty home, but a huge burst in the 7th inning from Ellsworth would flip this game, and the Eagles steal a 12-4 victory to improve to 10-1. Let's go national now to check in with the Red Sox, who have just swept their series with the Kansas City Royals. After scoring 3-1 and 7-1 victories versus KC on Monday and Tuesday, the Sox looked to make it a clean sweep on Wednesday, and they did just that. But it was a much more competitive game this time around. The Sox trailed 1-0 early in the game and later trailed 3-2 until the top of the 7th inning when Boston's leadoff hitter Jarren Duran came through big for the Sox, as he has throughout the entire series, crushing a ball to left field for a 2-run homer that would give Boston a 4-3 lead. That score would hold and they would win and get the sweep. Interim manager Chad Tracy says Duran's recent success at bat has sparked new life into the team.
Bats kind of came to life this week, which was really nice to see. So, and then to grab, be trailing, get another big swing from Jarren and come back and win in comeback fashion was very satisfying. When you're sitting atop the offense in front of Willier and Wilson and that group of guys, if he starts going, it's no secret that's going to help us go. So, but he's taken some really, really big at bats right now.
And finally, some devastating news out of the world of NASCAR, as legendary driver Kyle Busch has passed away. It was announced around 4:30 on Thursday that Busch had died from complications from a sudden illness that hospitalized him in the morning hours, shocking the racing world. Busch, who was in the midst of his 24th NASCAR season, is a 2-time series champion, amounted 234 total wins in NASCAR's 3 Premier Series, and was named one of NASCAR's top 75 drivers of all time by the sport in 2023. Busch was not only a successful racer, but he brought a personality to the sport that had never been seen before. Many drivers, both former and current, took to social media to mourn the loss of not only a competitor, but a friend. Kyle leaves behind his wife Samantha, son Brexton, and daughter Lennox. Busch was just 41 years old. That's all the time we have for sports. We'll be right back after the break.
Everyone deserves to be connected. Big cities, small towns, everywhere in between. And staying connected shouldn't break the bank. That's why T-Mobile and US Cellular have joined forces. And now that we've combined networks, T-Mobile covers more places than ever before. America's best network just got bigger. Join now and your plan price is guaranteed for 5 years. T-Mobile and US Cellular, better together.
Roto-Rooter has served the greater Bangor area and beyond for 35 years, offering plumbing, hydrojetting, snaking, descaling, video inspection, and grease interceptor cleaning services. For all your residential and commercial clogs, call Roto-Rooter today, 990-1234.
And away go troubles down the drain. Roto-Rooter.
Hank's Husqvarna is your trusted full-line Husqvarna dealer, offering you everything you need for your outdoor projects. From high-performance lawn tractors and zero-turn mowers to chainsaws, trimmers, battery-powered and powerful snowblowers, we have just what you need. Every piece of equipment is fully set up, serviced, and ready for use by our certified Husqvarna technician. And all sales are backed by our in-house Husqvarna warranty. For parts, service, or new equipment sales, make your way to Hank's Husqvarna in Carmel or Newport.
Welcome back, everyone. The city of Fort Worth's fire department has a new four-legged member. Meet Jake, who at first sight you'd think has always been part of the crew, but his new life with the department started pretty recently with a letter from an owner who loved him enough to let him go.
Touched my heart. I think all the guys here at the station were moved by it.
Jake's former owner, Tom, is a veteran who is currently experiencing homelessness. In the letter, he wrote that he can no longer take care of Jake as he works to get his life back on track. He emphasized how difficult the decision was and that it was the safe place sign that drew him to the station. He ended the letter by saying, "If you really care about helping babies, please help my baby." And the crew has done just that, taking him in. It's safe to say Jake is loving the station life too, but the Fort Worth Fire Department also wanted to help Tom. Sam Grief is the lieutenant that oversees the Homeless Outreach Programs and Enforcement, or HOPE team.
While the guys here at Station 8 have done a great job with Jake, my team's thing is for those experiencing homelessness. So we've met with him, we're getting him connected to the resources that he needs, and hopefully getting his life back on track.
The HOPE team did a medical assessment for Tom, took him to get dental work started, and was able to find him an RV through Operation Texas Strong, an organization that helps homeless veterans. The team says that in the future, if Tom is able to take Jake back, they would be more than happy to reunite them.
Oh, what a nice thing to do.
It is, really.
Yeah, love
so
that.
Cute. Well, now here's meteorologist Devin Biggs with our full weather forecast.
Alrighty, Craig and Janessa, thank you very much. Your full weather forecast brought to you by Clifton General Store. Start your morning right at Clifton General Store. Fresh coffee and hot breakfast, family owned and operated. Alrighty, here we go. We have advisories posted that will drop throughout the morning period. Frost advisories and even some freeze warnings as, of course, temperatures got pretty cool out there. Hopefully you protected your flowers that were outside. Meanwhile, wave height's pretty quiet out there. No advisories along the coast, so the wave heights have been behaving themselves. Meanwhile, 3-foot wave heights farther out towards sea. Meanwhile, on land, the last of the clouds have been moving away as high pressure takes control. So another nice one out there today under a mostly sunny sky, although low pressure and high pressure pretty close together. So another breezy one today with gusty winds up to around 25 miles per hour. Areas farther down toward the south, we'll be seeing some precipitation today, but again, for us, we're going to stay dry out there under a mostly sunny sky. Some passing clouds overnight, but that won't be a big deal. Overall, mostly clear. But as we head towards tomorrow, sunshine to start. We'll watch for a partly cloudy sky by the afternoon period, with more clouds on the way as we head towards Saturday night and the parts of Sunday. Your UV index forecast for today will be at an 8. That's very high. A burn time of simply 15 minutes. So hat, sunglasses, sunscreen, and shade will all be necessary to avoid a bad sunburn today. So we're definitely entering that time of the year. Of course, gusty winds common today, reaching up to about 20 to even 25 miles per hour. The winds will be backing off tonight and staying pretty quiet as we head towards the daytime period tomorrow. tomorrow. So for today, mostly sunny and breezy, highs in the upper 60s, northwest wind at about 25 miles per hour. And then by tonight, mostly clear, lower 40s for the overnight low, and the wind overall looking nice and calm. And then for tomorrow, partly cloudy, lower 70s for the high, and the wind overall again looking nice and calm. Let's check out your extended forecast as we look ahead towards your Sunday. Mostly cloudy with highs in the lower 60s. Memorial Day still looking rainy with highs in the lower 60s. And then partly cloudy, a few showers Tuesday with highs in the mid 70s.
Let me run the numbers one more time.
Hey, you trying to win at calculus or enjoy the game?
What?
With Prize Picks, it's simple. Pick more or less on your favorite players to get your picks in. Then see if you got your picks right, like I did last night, without all this paperwork.
Nice. You work here?
Yeah, man, I've been here 3 months. Some people. New users download the Prize Picks app and get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup.
When you work in disaster services, the phone rings at all hours. Penobscot Cleaning, can I help you? People appreciate hearing a real voice on the other end. Since 1976, that personal touch has set us apart. When disaster strikes, you just want your life back to normal. You want a reputable company, someone you can trust. We take care of things and give you peace of mind. I'm Jason Sear, owner of Penobscot Cleaning Services. 24/7, we're here for you.
Davis Brothers Furniture is expanding. At Davis Brothers, we've always strived to stand out from the rest, and we are now proud to offer flooring for your home, featuring both carpeting and luxury vinyl flooring. We even have an installer in-house with over 30 years of experience. Come see the reason people have been traveling from all over the state and beyond to Davis Brothers Furniture in Guilford for decades. Davis Brothers Furniture, deliberately different, delivering statewide.
Tonight, this teacher of the year just vanished. A mother gone missing. Blood was around the woman's car. A 3-year-old left behind.
Solving the crime comes down to a child.
2020, tonight on ABC and stream on Disney Plus and Hulu.
Next Jeopardy, what's your sign?
This is a fortuitous day to be on Jeopardy.
Can a contender chart a course to take down a champ?
It's all in the stars. It's not up to me.
Next Jeopardy.
Only on ABC7.
All right, we got another baby animal story.
We do.
We love the cute
We
animal
do.
stories. It's one baby hippo's first outdoor bath. This baby hippopotamus was born less than 2 weeks ago at the Berlin Zoo. While pygmy hippos typically spend less time in water compared to larger hippos, moisture is key to maintaining their sensitive skin. Zoo officials say the female calf is developing well, already weighing in at 22 pounds. Her species is classified as endangered, with less than 2,500 adult pygmy hippopotamuses believed to be still in the wild. The Berlin Zoo says her birth has been an important contribution to international conservation efforts for that important species.
Oh.
And they're so cute.
I know. I kind of wish we could have that on Pet of the Week
Yeah.
someday. Yeah, it's really, really cute. Just
Yeah.
taking her little bath.
Give us some time. I bet you somebody will start having pet pygmy hippopotamuses.
Oh, probably.
You know, they are cute though.
It's too funny. That's all the time that we have left for this hour, but you can join us for the second hour of Good Morning Maine. That's next on Fox 22.
Thanks for being there, everyone. We hope you have a great day.
Black fly season in Maine is back again. That time of year we all know when. The state bird rises with the spring. And black fly season starts to sting. Those buggers will just about carry you away, turning a quiet walk into not today. If you need to know if the wind will blow, ABC 7 22 are the ones to know. Oh, deep in the woods and along the shores, black fly season rules outdoors. Tiny wings, but they track you down. There's no safe place when they're around. And at night, when you're sleeping sound, the hum of the swarm still hangs around to track the heat and the weather too. We rely on ABC 7 and Fox 22. We endure the bite for what's ahead. Warm sun and summer days instead. Maine awakens as the skies turn gray, and black fly season has its say.
All across America.
Good morning. Good morning.
Wherever we are, it feels like home.
Man, it's good to be home.
GMA, it's an invitation to come together and brighten your morning.
You're watching ABC 7 Bangor.
Good morning, America. The sudden passing of NASCAR's Kyle Busch, new Ebola restrictions, and the Knicks.
Choose Good Morning Maine.
Hello, everyone. Today on Good Morning Maine, the life of Maine game warden pilot Joshua Tibbetts was celebrated yesterday. We'll have more from that service ahead.
Plus, we'll also hear from the Sullivan Fire Department about how volunteer numbers are dropping in many Maine communities.
And Bangor High School students were able to learn from a NASA engineer. We'll bring you that story as well. Good morning and welcome to Good Morning Maine. I'm Janessa Bishop.
And I'm Craig Colson. Thank you for joining us on this Friday morning. Happy Friday, everyone. We'll have those stories and more coming up. But first, the big Memorial Day weekend is upon us.
It is.
Lots of people have plans for that. The weather's looking pretty good at this point. Today will be a beautiful day.
It will, nice
Next
and sunny.
couple of days will be nice. Memorial Day itself is looking a little rainy, but that won't stop people from coming out to like Bangor's parade.